They say emotions make you human. They say to listen to your heart. They say don't bottle it up. Express what you feel. But Niccolò Machiavelli didn't listen to any of that, because he understood a brutal truth most people never learn. The more you feel, the more they control you. Feelings make you predictable. Emotions give away your position. Sensitivity, when left untrained, is a leash around your neck that anyone can pull. You love someone too loudly, they use it. You care too openly, they test it. You fear too obviously, they exploit it. And if you react fast, they win fast. That's why Machiavelli didn't just master politics, he mastered himself. Because no strategy matters if your emotions can be hijacked at any moment. Since birth, you've been trained to equate openness equals honesty, feeling equals truth, vulnerability equals strength. And yet, every time you got emotional, someone used it. You forgave too soon. You overreacted and looked unstable. You chased after closure that never came. You confessed something personal, and they remembered it when it was useful. That's the cost. Your feelings didn't free you. They gave others the key to your cage. Machiavelli didn't live in an age of therapy and overexposure. He lived in courts filled, with betrayal, bribery, and blood. He watched friends become enemies, allies switch sides. Kings fall because they trusted the wrong smile. In that world, you couldn't afford to be emotional, not even a little. Men are driven by two principal impulses, love and fear. Machiavelli knew to be feared, you must feel less. You become predictable. Your anger is easy to provoke. Your silence is easy to read. Your love is easy to weaponize, reactive. You respond before thinking. You speak before measuring. And you move before observing, dependent. You chase feelings. You need validation. You give others control over how you see yourself. You become easy to disarm because people don't need to outsmart you. They just need to trigger you. Throughout history, the most dangerous individuals shared one quality. They were still unbothered by slander, unmoved by affection, unapologetically detached from how others felt about them. These people weren't cold. They were self-contained, and that's what Machiavelli sought to become. Not a robot, not a monster, but a man who could not be moved from the outside. Because once you learn to stop feeling reactively, you start acting strategically. You become the kind of person others watch carefully because they can't read you. You say less. You hear more. You observe everything without reacting to anything. And that kind of control terrifies the emotional world. But isn't that just being numb? No. There's a difference between emotional suppression and emotional control. Suppression is avoidance. Control is precision. You don't pretend you don't feel. You master when, how, and why. You express what you feel. And if the moment isn't strategic, you feel it, but you don't show it. That's what separates warriors from victims. Machiavelli didn't want to be numb. He wanted to be untouchable. So he trained for it in thought, in posture, in silence. Because the moment you learn to feel nothing on command, you don't just gain power, you become power. Machiavelli wasn't born detached. He was made by humiliation, by betrayal, by being used, exiled, and erased by people who once shook his hand with a smile. It wasn't a philosophy that hardened him, but it was survival. You don't become emotionless from reading books. You become emotionless when emotion keeps getting you killed. Machiavelli served the Florentine Republic. He climbed ranks. He negotiated with kings, popes, tyrants. He gave his loyalty to people he believed were worthy of it. And then they threw him out, imprisoned him, tortured him, forgot him. His entire political life erased in days, not because he failed, but because power shifted and loyalty meant nothing. That was the first lesson. They only love you until you become inconvenient. What would most people do? Cry, collapse, beg for their job back, apologize, ask for forgiveness. But not Machiavelli. He watched, he learned, he detached. He realized that emotion makes you loyal to people who would sell you the moment it serves them. So he decided, if I'm going to suffer, it won't be for love. It will be for strategy. Every betrayal begins with one phrase. I thought they wouldn't. I thought they wouldn't lie. I thought they wouldn't leave. I thought they wouldn't do this to me. That thought comes from trust, and trust comes from emotion. But Machiavelli realized something colder. People are loyal only until loyalty costs them something. And when the cost gets too high, they flip. Emotion doesn't prevent betrayal. It blinds you to the signs of it, and he refused to be blind again. The turning point in Machiavelli's transformation wasn't rage, it was realization. He wrote The Prince not out of vengeance, but out of clarity. He didn't whine about how unfair the world was. He documented how power actually works, and how most people aren't strong enough to admit it. You think you're emotionally intelligent because you feel deeply, but true intelligence is when you feel deeply and still act with cold clarity. Machiavelli trained for that. So how do you do it? How do you go from emotionally reactive to emotionally unshakable? It doesn't begin with quotes. It begins with your pain. Look at your past. Who used you? Who lied to you? Who disappeared the moment they no longer needed you? What did you feel? Shame, grief, rage, confusion. That pain is not just trauma. It's data. It's your training ground. Every betrayal is a message. Stop letting people see what they don't deserve to hold. Every disappointment is a reminder. Your expectations are emotional hostages. Machiavelli didn't numb himself. He studied the pain until it stopped controlling him. He dissected human behavior. He rewired his instincts. He turned undharma, heartbreak into pattern recognition. Now, when someone smiles too fast, praises too quickly, or agrees too eagerly, he doesn't feel warmth. He feels warning. Because once you learn from your pain, you stop walking into the same traps. You can't build immunity by hiding. You build it by exposure. Machiavelli didn't isolate himself. He stayed close to power, corruption, deceit. But instead of absorbing it emotionally, he began to observe it surgically. He trained his mind to watch, not react, to record, not collapse, to stay still while others' arms spilled everything they felt. And over time, emotion no longer made decisions for him. It became a signal, a layer of intel, not a steering wheel. That's what you're building now. Not apathy, but emotional sovereignty. The ability to feel without being owned by those feelings. Machiavelli didn't want to escape emotion for peace. He did it for power. Because once you master your emotions, you automatically master other people. Why? Because everyone else is controlled by what you've now neutralized. They want to be liked. They need to feel understood. They react when triggered. They speak when nervous. They confess when afraid. You no longer do any of that. You become still. And in that stillness, you become the authority. Watch any group dynamic. The one who speaks first is trying to impress. The one who interrupts is afraid of being forgotten. The one who explains too much is unsure they'll be understood. The one who needs to be heard is already losing. Now watch the one who waits. They don't react. They don't rush. They don't explain. But when they speak, everyone listens. Not because of volume, because of gravity. That's Machiavellian presence. He who controls himself controls others because your self-control becomes their emotional mirror. If you stay calm, they start second-guessing their tone. If you don't flinch, they wonder if they went too far. If you don't chase closure, They spiral, trying to understand. Why? The more detached you become, the more power others accidentally hand you. Here's what Machiavelli understood. When you speak less, people panic in the silence. And to break that tension, they start talking. They confess. They justify. They over-explain. They reveal everything you didn't even ask for. Because silence feels like judgment. It feels like power. It feels like you know something they don't. So instead of reading them, you let them read themselves out loud. And the best part, you never gave anything away. People expect cause and effect. They insult you. You react. They guilt you. You apologize. They beg. You soften. They ghost. You chase. That's how emotional people operate on visible triggers. But when you stop reacting, you become a pattern breaker. Now they don't know what you're thinking, what you'll do, how you feel, or when you'll move. You've introduced uncertainty, and uncertainty breaks. Control. You no longer play the game. You control the board. Let's be clear. Detachment is not apathy. You still care. You still want things. You still feel. You've just removed the external access to those feelings. People no longer get to predict your next move, read your face, sense your weakness, time, their manipulation. Now only you know what's happening inside you, and everyone else they guess, and guesswork always creates fear because the person they can't read is the person they assume is more powerful than they are. Ever notice that the quietest people in the room are often the ones no one wants to cross? That's not charisma. That's emotional control expressed physically. When you speak slowly, react sparingly, move with purpose, hold eye contact, without tension, sit still when others squirm. You broadcast dominance without a word. You are not trying to impress. You are not trying to prove. You are simply anchored while others are floating, drifting, desperate to stabilize themselves in your presence. And the more they float, the more they orbit you. Machiavelli didn't meditate on a mountaintop. He trained in the court, in conversation, in conflict, because emotional control isn't built in peace, it's built in war. You don't learn to stay calm when you're alone. You learn it when you're being challenged, tested, provoked, and you choose silence anyway. This is where detachment becomes a discipline, not a personality trait, not a mood, a method. Someone insults you. Pause. They try to provoke you with guilt. Pause. They beg, cry, accuse, manipulate. Pause. Machiavelli trained the pause like a weapon, because in that space between stimulus and response, you regain control. Not just of your words, but of the room. You become the one dictating tempo. And once you own tempo, you own direction. He who speaks second has the advantage of knowing the field. That's not just strategy. That's emotional economy. Let them spend energy. You can serve yours. That alone makes you more powerful. You don't react to every tone shift. You don't internalize every insult. You don't collapse at every sign of rejection. You watch, you catalog, you study, not to attack, but to understand. Because most people show their entire psychological blueprint in the way they try to make you feel. If they guilt you, they're insecure. If they flatter you, they want control. If they ignore you, they want attention. Machiavelli treated emotion like information. Every emotional reaction is a map to someone's core fear, and every map is an advantage if you stay quiet enough to read it. You don't owe anyone emotional clarity. If someone says you seem off, are you okay? You say, I'm processing. If they ask, what are you thinking right now? You say, a lot but nothing urgent. That's how you train your ambiguity muscle, not by being fake, but by saying less than they can use. Because clarity creates emotional vulnerability and ambiguity. It creates protection. The less they know what affects you, the more they guess. And the more they guess, the less power they have. When a conversation is no longer productive, you leave it, not with drama, not with explanation, just with distance. You stop replying. You stop engaging. You stop validating. Why? Because every unnecessary response is a withdrawal from your emotional bank. Machiavelli would never let someone keep him in a loop. He'd disengage silently because power doesn't need a closing statement. It just needs to vanish. You're in an awkward silence. You're being stared at. You're feeling misunderstood. Your instinct is to fix it, to fill the silence, to explain yourself, to defend your intention. Machiavelli would feel that same pressure and sit in it, still unmoved, undisturbed. That's where real training happens, in the refusal to relieve discomfort, because discomfort is a test, and most people fail it by overcorrecting. You win by letting others drown in tension. You've already learned to breathe inside. Eventually, you won't have to pause. It'll be natural. You won't have to fake neutrality. You'll live it. You won't get triggered because they simply can't reach you. That's when you've gone from discipline to dominance. You've trained yourself to feel nothing when it matters most, and everything only when it serves. You're not cold. You're precise. And in a world addicted to overreaction, that precision is power of the highest form. Machiavelli's methods weren't made for temples. They were forged in courts, councils, betrayals, and your modern world is no different. Now you're not just tested in private, you're tested publicly every day. Messages that demand instant emotional reaction, social media, designed to provoke and expose relationships that weaponize guilt, silence, and drama. Workplaces built on emotional games rather than skill. And in that chaos, emotional stillness becomes your shield, your sword, your signal. Here's how to apply it precisely and without apology, in person or online. Someone says something designed to trigger you. They want your defensiveness, your anger, your emotional leak. That response gives them control. So what would Machiavelli do? Nothing. He would look, wait, let the silence grow, and that silence would be louder than a scream. Then, if a response is needed at all, interesting point, if that's how you see it, I'll think about that. You give them no fight, no admission, no weakness. They leave the conversation confused because you didn't play the part they rehearsed, whether it's a partner, family member, or a friend. Emotionally reactive people want proof that they've affected you. When you raise your voice, cry, beg, explain, they feel important. They feel in control. They feel like they've won. Machiavelli would stay completely composed. He wouldn't beg to be understood. He wouldn't match energy. He wouldn't even say, "You're overreacting." He'd say, "We'll revisit this when the emotions cool. I understand you need space. Let's not destroy respect to prove a point. This isn't detachment. This is emotional martial arts. You deflect their attacks. You preserve your center. You win without conflict. Someone takes a shot at you online. They bait you in. Comments, messages, or indirect posts. The world teaches you to clap back, to defend your name, to clear things up. Machiavelli would never do that. He who speaks first appears defensive. He who speaks last appears decisive. He who says nothing becomes untouchable. Let them rant. Let others watch. Because your silence becomes a Rorschach test. To some, you're dignified. To others, mysterious. To your enemies, terrifying. You didn't defend yourself. You made them look obsessed. That's power. You'll meet people who confuse love with control. They'll say things like, "If you don't tell me right now, it means you don't care. Why won't you just be vulnerable? You used to share everything with me." Translation, I can't control you anymore, and that scares me. Machiavelli would feel no need to explain. His silence, because his love, like his strategy, was deliberate, not reactive. He wouldn't respond to pressure, he'd respond to pattern. If someone constantly uses emotional leverage against you, you don't owe them openness. You owe them distance. Emotional stillness teaches others how to treat you. Not by speech, but by resistance. You don't react. You reposition. And the people who can't respect that aren't qualified to stay. Your name is in rooms you're not in. You're being framed, doubted, redefined. You want to speak out, to say, that's not who I am. But Machiavelli wouldn't fight lies. He'd flood them with results. He'd outperform, outlast, outgrow. Because when you engage rumors, you validate them. But when you ignore them and rise anyway, you turn critics into footnotes. And history never remembers the footnotes. You'll notice over time people stop pushing your buttons because they no longer work. Drama avoids you because it can't get energy from you. Influence grows not because you demanded it, but because people feel safer around someone they can't control. You'll become the one who knows when to speak, knows how to pause, knows how to command through calmness, knows how to rule without raising your voice. And in today's world, that makes you dangerous in the quietest way possible. Let's correct the biggest misconception. You're not becoming heartless. You're becoming whole. Because Machiavelli didn't train to feel less. He trained to feel on his own terms. His goal wasn't emotional numbness. It was emotional sovereignty. The ability to own every emotion without being owned by any of them. And that's where detachment becomes a superpower. Most people confuse stillness with repression. They think if you're not expressing rage, you're bottling it up. If you're not showing tears, you're hiding your pain. If you don't explain yourself, you're emotionally unavailable. But Machiavelli would say, the strongest feelings are the ones that don't need witnesses. True power is when you feel the anger and don't lash out. You feel the sadness and still speak clearly. You feel the pressure and still move with precision. That's not apathy. That's mastery. They told you emotional. Intelligence was naming your emotions, sharing how you feel, understanding how others feel. That's good for fitting in. But if you want to lead, to command, to outlast, emotional intelligence becomes not leaking under pressure, not reacting to manipulation, reading others without being readable yourself. It's no longer about expressing feelings. It's about strategically managing their visibility. And in Machiavelli's world, that visibility was lethal if uncontrolled. Empathy isn't weakness, but uncontrolled empathy is. Reactive empathy is when you feel bad and immediately try to fix. You mirror someone's pain without checking their motives. You say, I understand, even when they're attacking you. Strategic empathy is when you understand someone's emotional state and use that data, not absorb it blindly. You can listen, you can care, but you never let someone's emotion dictate your motion. That's what Machiavelli mastered, using emotions as intel, not instructions. Life is noisy. People are impulsive. The world is addicted to emotional reaction. So, how does Machiavelli respond? With distance. Not because he's cold, but because chaos doesn't deserve your warmth. If someone is yelling, guilt-tripping, performing for attention, acting emotionally, violent, you don't fix it. You don't debate it. You pull away from it. That's not giving up. That's protecting your signal. You don't let emotional static distort your frequency. Machiavelli didn't believe in pure detachment for its own sake. He believed in detachment that filters what's real. Because when you're reactive, you love people who confuse you. You chase people who ghost you. You serve people who exploit your kindness. But when you become still, you don't chase. You observe. You don't prove. You wait. You don't beg, you listen. And most people, they fail those tests because they were never meant to sit beside your stillness. They were only loud enough to be noticed in your chaos. The moment you stop feeling everything for everyone, you begin seeing everyone for what they are. And that's when detachment becomes vision. You don't arrive at emotional immunity with fireworks. You arrive in silence. And one day you realize, this would have shattered me before, but now I feel nothing I didn't choose to feel. That's when you know you're not just surviving emotional chaos, you're governing it. Machiavelli would not celebrate emotional detachment as a trophy. He'd recognize it as a milestone of readiness. And when you've reached that state, the world starts reacting to you differently, even if they don't know why. You stop needing to explain your silence, your boundaries, your absence. You no longer give disclaimers like, I'm not ignoring you. I just need space. I'm not being rude. I'm just tired. Sorry if I seemed cold, because emotional immunity means knowing. If they need you to explain your peace, they were never going to respect it anyway. You move quietly, and those meant to remain in your world don't ask why. The people who once controlled you with emotional pressure after everything I've done for you, I thought you cared. You used to be different. Now their lines fall flat. Not because you've become cruel, but because you finally see what they're doing. They're not expressing pain. They're fishing for control. And now you don't bite. You nod. You breathe. You walk away. That's not indifference. That's recognition. You see the game, and you choose not to play. You no longer race to feel silence. You no longer over-explain to avoid being misunderstood. You speak in clean, weighted lines, and that's enough. Why? Because emotional immunity sharpens your language. You say, I understand. That's not something I tolerate. Let's revisit this later. And people listen because your words carry gravity, not be performance. You're no longer talking to be validated. You're speaking only when needed, and that scarcity makes people focus. Before, it took months to recognize red flags. Now one conversation, one boundary test, one guilt trap, and you see it for what it is. Emotional clarity removes illusion. You no longer project your hope onto people. You no longer invent excuses for them. You no longer interpret chaos as potential. You simply see, and what you see, you act on. You no longer need 10 proofs. One is enough. Situations that used to unravel you now feel like rehearsed theater. The guilt trip, you've seen that scene before. The emotional explosion, you already know the script. The passive-aggressive comment. You don't even turn your head. Machiavelli trained himself for courtrooms full of false smiles and veiled threats. You've trained yourself for the emotional equivalent. And now you don't react. You redirect. You've gone from target to threat, from reactive to ruler, from emotional to elemental. And most people, they can feel it, even if they can't name it. There comes a moment where you don't have to fake it anymore. You don't have to rehearse detachment. You don't have to pause before responding. You just are unbothered, unshaken, unreadable. Not because you feel nothing, but because you've trained yourself to feel nothing unless it serves you. That is the final form. And if Machiavelli were alive today, this is how he'd walk the earth. You are no longer the emotional soldier, fighting battles, chasing apologies, proving your worth. You've become the strategist, the one who listens without reacting, moves without warning, vanishes without drama, leads without raising your voice. You no longer ask, what should I say? You ask, what outcome do I want? And then you choose stillness, silence, or strike accordingly. Not emotionally, strategically. Emotional people are easy to consume. They confess too soon, apologize too fast, bleed to be seen, burn out just to keep others warm. But once you've trained yourself to hold your own emotions like a fortress, no one gets in, and no one forgets the one they couldn't enter. You become the mystery, the standard, the unsolved variable in their story. And people don't get over mysteries. They orbit them. This isn't about being cold. This isn't about being stoic to look powerful. This is about evolution. You've evolved past guilt, past begging, past the need to be understood, liked, forgiven, or seen. You don't reject emotion. You command it, channel it, store it for when it becomes useful. You're no longer a servant to your feelings. You are their architect. If he could leave one rule to sum it all up, it wouldn't be don't feel. It would be don't let them know you feel unless it strengthens your position. Because the real power isn't in being unfeeling. It's in being indecipherable. No one can destroy what they cannot define. No one can control what they cannot read, and no one can manipulate what refuses to flinch. You don't explain your peace. You don't defend your standards. You don't chase closure. You move when you want. Speak when it matters. Disappear when it's time. Return without apology. Command without effort. And when they ask, how did you become like this? You say, I stopped letting the world teach me how to feel and started teaching myself when to feel.